Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for World Cup Fantasy. My name is Dan and today we're going to do a video all about those cheap players that you're going to want to put in your World Cup Fantasy team so you can spend the big bucks on those big players. You're going to have to cut some corners somewhere, get some bargains, get some differentials, get some enablers. So we're going to go through loads of players today that I hope you're going to like. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes on this video. That would be absolutely amazing. And please do subscribe if you are looking for more World Cup content because we're going to be doing a lot on this channel. Let's get started. So we're going to go position by position. Let's start off in the goalkeeper slot with Dominguez, who is the goalkeeper for Ecuador. So we do know that Ecuador, although they struggle to score goals, actually defensively in their recent games, they've actually been pretty good. Now Dominguez is their starting goalkeeper. He's also the captain of Ecuador, a little bit of an older player in the team, but he still does play very, very regularly. And over the last 12 games he's played since the start of 2021, he has played 12 matches and he's only conceded 6 goals during this period with 8 clean sheets. So Ecuador actually a team pretty decent for clean sheets really. And when you look through their opening fixtures, we've got Qatar in matchday 1, Senegal in matchday 2 and Netherlands in matchday 3. You wouldn't be totally surprised to see a clean sheet against Qatar, maybe even against Senegal as well, you never know. So overall I think for a 4.5 million goalkeeper, for me, he is the best 4.5 million goalkeeper in the game that you can go for. So there's a recommendation for you. On to defenders, and I can't speak about cheap defenders without talking about Joachim Mæhle. So Mæhle is a 4.5 million defender who plays for Denmark. And already, guys, you've probably noticed straight away on screen his stats. 25 matches played since 2021, 8 goals and 5 assists. That is crazy good. And those of you guys who played Euro Fantasy 2020, then you will also know a lot about this guy and just how good he was in that Euro tournament. He was just absolutely essential to have in the fantasy game, and it's going to be a similar situation here. We've got 2 fairly decent fixtures for Denmark here as well, Tunisia and Australia in matchday 1 and 3. And I should say that Denmark are actually one of the better teams in this World Cup. People don't usually think of Denmark as a top team in world international football, but actually they really are. And because they've been priced so cheaply, a lot of their players, you really can get some bargains. So Mæhle is going to be playing on the left hand side of the midfield really. He's going to be playing as a very advanced wing back on the left hand side, cutting in on his right foot and hopefully scoring a few goals. So out of all of the players who we're going to be speaking about today, I think in terms of cheap players, Mæhle is pretty much essential. You pretty much have to have him in your team if you are serious about World Cup Fantasy. Let's go a little bit cheaper in the defenders, and we're going to go for Matty Cash here. What we're going to try and do is we're going to go through some players and then try and get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to try and find the ultimate cheap beast. And Matty Cash at 4 million is certainly really, really cheap, right? He's played 7 games for Poland so far since he switched allegiance, and he's only got 1 goal so far, no assists. But for 4 million, we know that this is a player who can play quite advanced on the right-hand side. He is capable of taking a shot, creating for his teammates as well. And we know from watching him for Aston Villa that he can actually be a really good fantasy asset. Now, so far for Poland, has he shown it? Maybe in a little bit of sparks, but if you look through these fixtures, Mexico and Saudi Arabia, the opening 2 fixtures, which are very nice fixtures, for 4 million, you don't need a player who is going to absolutely go crazy and beat everyone and get the highest score in your team. We're just looking for those players who have the potential to do something, and Matty Cash for 4 million, he does have that potential, but don't expect the same points from a Cash as you would from a Cancelo or maybe a France defender or an England defender maybe. And let's go cheaper still. The cheapest defender that is really worth talking about. We will mention some honourable mentions at the end of the video, but let's just talk about Sosa for a while. 3.5 million for the starting left back of Croatia. Croatia not the worst team in the tournament by any stretch of the imagination. They have done quite well in international tournaments in the past, and their opening 2 fixtures against Morocco and Canada, these are really nice, and you would say there are opportunities for clean sheets. Now Sosa also since 2021 has 1 goal and 1 assist, so that's not crazy good stats or anything like that, but remember, he is only 3.5 million. That is super, super cheap. And in terms of those cheap players, I think Sosa is probably one of the best value for money players in the whole game, just because you're not going to find anyone else around this price tag that offers nearly as much as this guy does. So definitely a recommendation if you are really trying to cut your budget down as much as possible, make room for the big boys. then this is a potential way of doing that, of spending not very much money on a very cheap defender. Into midfield, and we're going to start off with the most expensive of the cheap midfielders that I've got for you, and that's going to be Bergwijn. So Bergwijn actually plays as a striker, as a forward for the Netherlands, which is really, really nice. It means we basically have an out-of-position player. So listed as a midfielder, actually playing as a forward. It's always good when fantasy games kind of make mistakes like this and don't really realise where a player plays, which means that hopefully Bergwijn, despite the fact that he's listed as a midfielder, is going to get goals. Now, the good thing about Bergwijn is that he has got some incredible fixtures, and I think that Netherlands actually possibly have the best group all in all, with Senegal first. That's the tough game, but after that, Ecuador and Qatar. You're definitely going to want to make sure you've got some Netherlands players in for Matchday 2 and 3. And if you're looking for a player who's going to score you some goals, well, in the last 13 games, 6 goals and 1 assist is not too bad for Bergwijn for the Netherlands, and his club form has been really, really good since he has left Spurs and returned to his home country. He's had some really good club level form as well. So looking really good at the moment, Bergwijn. Definitely a recommendation if you can stretch to 7 million for a cheap-ish midfielder, but I think we can go cheaper. Let's look at some even cheaper options in midfield. Okay, so Skov Olsen. Maybe not a player you've heard of before, but he is a 6 million midfielder who plays for Denmark. And really, he's just the international hero. Like, he is such a good player at international level. He really does so well. You can see 7 goals and 4 assists since 2021 in 21 matches. So that's more than a return every other game, which is really, really nice. Good fixtures. Again, we've got that Tunisia game, we've got that Australia game, which are quite nice, with that kind of awkward France game in between, but still definitely something that we would recommend to go for some Denmark players, because they are just a very good team, and their players are just priced so cheaply. So yes, we've got a bit of a hero here. He is kind of a winger, occasionally plays in a more central position, but usually plays out wide a little bit. So he is going to still be creating a little bit, providing chances for his teammates as well, and that's going to be good for racking up those key pass points. For the ultra cheap midfielder in this video, we're going to go for Rodrigo de Paul, who is a 5 million midfielder. And I know what you're thinking. He's a defensive midfielder. Why do we want a defensive midfielder? Well, I feel like de Paul is an exception. Now, I know there is a rule in World Cup Fantasy whereby every 3 tackles a player makes, they do get 1 extra point. If you're a midfielder, you make 3 tackles, you get a point. You make 6, you get 2 points. You make 9, you get 3 points, etc, etc. So there is a little bit of benefit of going for a defensive midfielder, or more of a deep-lying midfielder anyway. But the great thing about de Paul is that he actually can occasionally contribute with attacking returns. You can see he's got 2 goals since 2021, which isn't too bad. That's kind of a goal every 10 games. As for assists, 6 assists. You know, that's like 1 in 4, 1 in 3. That's actually very, very decent in terms of assists. And what you can see by that is not only is he getting assists, it also means that he's creating. So he is going to be getting points for key passes as well, creating opportunities for his teammates to score, which is definitely a good thing indeed. So de Paul is one of those unique players who is super cheap. And not only that, he is going to be picking up points for tackles, but also because he's a little bit creative, he is going to be picking up points for key passes made. And if you look at these this opening fixture against Saudi Arabia, you really feel like for 5 million, de Paul could make an absolute joke out of that price tag. So definitely, if you are looking for that ultra cheap midfielder who you think is still going to be quite reliable, because remember, de Paul is super nailed on for Argentina. He plays every game for them. Then this could be your man. Let's look at some forwards, and first of all, the most expensive of the cheap options, I guess, so kind of the upper end of the cheap forwards, and Mitrovic is definitely the one. I would say that Mitrovic is arguably one of the best value players you can possibly get in the entire of the World Cup Fantasy game. I don't know how the organisers of this game have managed to make Mitrovic so cheap. In his last 15 games for Serbia since 2021, he has scored 14 goals in 15 games. That's almost 1 goal per game. He is just so good for, like, he is an absolute national treasure for that team. I can't remember exactly what his record is overall at the international level, but it's something like 50 goals in 70 appearances. He really is an absolute machine. And Serbia, a lot of people are saying, are the slight underdogs for this tournament that could go pretty far. And if that's the case, Mitrovic is going to be a huge part of that. Now, the one thing that puts me off going for Mitrovic in match day 1 is that fixture. fixture against Brazil. That's going to be the hardest fixture that Serbia play. But after that, slightly more favourable games against Cameroon and Switzerland could be a real good opportunity for you to go for Mitrovic. But if you'll have a slot in the forward position, you want to spend 7 million, which is not very much money at all. Hey, there is no doubt in my mind that Mitrovic is the best 7 million forward to go for, and he will be over the course of the tournament. Going slightly cheaper, I've gone for Ismaila Sarr here, and I have to admit to you guys, it is a little bit more difficult to find the cheaper forwards. Most of the cheaper forwards are kind of cheap for a reason, and most of the forwards in World Cup Fantasy are actually quite expensive. But if we are looking for those really cheap players, I thought let's try and recommend some players anyway. Ismaila Sarr is a potential shout, 6.5 million. If you can push it to 7 and go for Mitrovic, I absolutely would do that. But if 6.5 is all you have to play with, then there is an opportunity here. So because of Mane's absence, Senegal are going to have to rely a lot more on Sarr to be that main attacking threat, and Sarr will be that main attacking threat for Senegal with the absence of Mane. So we're going to look here at a player who has got 5 goals, 2 assists in the last 16 matches. That's not too bad, really. It's not amazing, anything like that, but it's not too bad. And when you look at some of these fixtures, Qatar and maybe Ecuador, these could be opportunities for any attacker to score some goals. And if we look through the Senegal team, Sarr seems like the player who you'd probably bet on to get the goal, to get the assist in these fixtures. Again, would you go for him in Matchday 1 when the fixture is against Netherlands? Not so sure about that one. But certainly after that, the Qatar game in particular, Sarr could be a really nice differential to have in that game. And let's go even cheaper with Nassir. Now, Nassir is a 5.5 million forward who plays for Morocco. His international record is, I have to admit, not great. His club level record is a little bit better, but in international, you know, he's not done amazingly. He's got 3 goals in his last 14 matches since 2021, but I should say that all 3 of those 3 goals, all of them occurred in his last 6 games. So for Morocco, he has 3 goals in 6 games. That's a goal every other game. You can kind of understand why he is priced so cheaply at 5.5 million. It's because it's kind of unlikely that he's going to score too many goals. But hey, some of you guys are going to find yourself in a situation where you just have a 5.5 million forward slot to fill. You don't know who you're going to use to fill it. My best bet for 5.5 million is going to be Nassir. I just feel like he could do okay. I think there's a chance he could get a goal or 2, maybe the odd assist in this group stage, because he is a good enough player. He's a decent player, and I think Morocco could be another one of those teams that are slight underdogs. They do have some really good players, some really good creators in their team. So hey, Nassir, if we're looking for one player who is going to be probably the biggest attacking threat for Morocco, I feel like Nassir is kind of maybe a shout for that. Maybe a shout for that. And you get him for 5.5 million, which is a little bit cheaper than some of the other Morocco players. So there you go, guys. There is another suggestion. I think we have a look at some honourable mentions, some other players that I definitely think are worth talking about at least. So here we have on screen, guys, a bunch of other players who I also think are options, but I don't have time to talk about every one of these players in full detail, but let's whiz through them anyway. So Diogo Costa, I think he is the best value 5 million goalkeeper. Matt Turner is another option at 4.5 if you don't trust the Ecuador man. We've got Saab El-Sheib, who is going to be the Qatar goalkeeper. If you just want a super cheap goalkeeper for that opening fixture before switching to your main goalkeeper, maybe you could go for him. In terms of defenders, there is actually quite a lot of options. So Ricardo Rodriguez famously takes penalties for Switzerland. So if you're looking for a goal-scoring defender, maybe that's an option for you. We talked about Ecuador and their defensive, abilities and how they keep a lot of clean sheets. Well, Pervis Estepinian is an option there as well at 4.5. Could get the odd assist as well. He's fairly advanced there. Nico Williams, very advanced player for Wales as a defender. Fabian Schär, always good to have a goal-scoring defender. Schär is well known as being a goal-scoring defender, and he's only 4 million. Christensen is kind of like Mela 2.0 in a way. He's like the cheaper, slightly worse version of Mela, but playing on the opposite side. So Christensen plays on the right wing back kind of position and does a similar kind of role. Ronald Araujo is a player I thought it was probably worth a mention because he is only 3.5 million, but he's actually not going to be available for the group stage. But after the group stage is finished and we're into the next round, the round of 16, if you're looking for a Uruguay defender, 3.5 million is really cheap for Araujo, and I feel like he will then become the best 3.5 defender, the best cheap defender to go for at that stage of the competition. But unfortunately not for now. And a little shout out for Nada Gandry as well, who to me, from my research that I've done today, seems like he's probably going to be the best 3 million defender to go for, but you know, you are picking the best from a bad bunch at that point. If you don't want to spend any money at all on your defenders though, hey, maybe you could go for him. In terms of midfielders, we've got Zielinski, who unfortunately doesn't do too well in terms of numbers for Poland, but his level, how he does at club level is just so good. But for a while now, he's not been putting up those numbers at international level. So I wonder if his club form can translate to World Cup form, maybe. Let's see. But if it does, then 6.5 million is a pretty decent price tag from there. He's going to be making the odd tackle. He is going to be creating for his teammates as well, so maybe he picks up some points that way. Philip Kostic maybe is worth a shout playing on those wings. 6 million, fairly cheap. Claesson here as well, 6 million. He did really well in the World Cup qualifiers, so he has kind of found himself a little bit out of favour a little bit more recently, so that was a kind of a risky one, but his numbers have been absolutely incredible whenever he plays. It's just a case of whether he's going to play or not. We've got a bit of an interesting one here with the Uruguayan de Arrascaeta. You know, the one thing I hate about making international tournament content is I have to say names of players that I've never said before in my life. De Arrascaeta. Is that right? Maybe. But 5.5 million. His numbers for Uruguay for over the last year or so have been really, really good. So have a look at him if you kind of fancy a 5.5. And Daichi Kamada is kind of the star, really, of this Japan team at the moment. And you can pick him up for just 5.5 million. He's going to be the main creative force in that team and probably going to pick up a few goals there as well. So Daichi Kamada, if you're looking for one Japan player, he is definitely the one I'd be going for. So, yeah. In terms of Japan, we're representing Japan today. Have a look at him. In terms of forwards, Ferran Torres, 7 million. He always does okay whenever he's playing for Spain. Cody Gakpo has been phenomenal at club level recently. He has just been taking the Netherlands Eredivisie by storm. He really has, and you can pick him up for 7 million. He's playing in that kind of central attacking midfield position, just behind the strikers, kind of the same position as Jorginho Wijnaldum played previously, but Wijnaldum is obviously injured, so Gakpo has come into that position and he's kind of playing in that. So yeah, he's listed as a forward. Really, he's playing more as like a midfielder, but at the same time, he is getting goals and he is getting assists and he is creating and he's taking shots on for the Netherlands, which is really good. Julian Alvarez is a good pick if he plays. It's kind of up in the air whether he's going to get much game time, so it's kind of difficult for me to recommend him, but if he is playing, he should do very well for Argentina. Kiefer Moore is always in and around the Wales team, but again, he's not necessarily nailed on. So I feel like maybe with Moore's form at club level, maybe he gets a shout for Wales. Quite possibly. He's been doing very well in the Premier League recently, so hey, maybe he's worth a shout. 6 million. And for 4.5 million, maybe Akram Afif. He seems to be the main attacking threat for Qatar. So if you are banking on Qatar during this World Cup, home nation maybe, to get even if they get one goal during this entire tournament, it's probably going to be coming through Akram Afif, whether that means he's scoring the goal or getting the assist. Probably going to be him involved. So 4.5 million, that is ridiculously cheap. If you really don't want to spend any money on your third forward slot for some reason, maybe he is an option to go for. There is a chance you get something out of it. Who knows? So there you go. Those are my honourable mentions, and those are all of the really cheap players that I am looking at this moment. But let me know, guys, are there any other cheap players that you've been having a look at for World Cup Fantasy that you really would recommend to all of us? Leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know who is the best cheap player in World Cup Fantasy. One that we've spoken about today, or maybe one that we haven't and you know about and you want to share with the group, or you feel like maybe a hidden gem. Let me know, guys. Let me know. I'm sure we'll all be very interested to read that. And that's going to be the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed. This video did take a long time to put together because it's involved a lot of research trying to find the best players for you guys. But I really am committed to try and make the best World Cup fantasy content anywhere on the internet. I want it to be right here on this YouTube channel. So if you did enjoy this one and you haven't done already, please do subscribe as well for more. But aside from that, guys, we're going to leave it there. So thanks once again for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.